He tried to steal my auto shop the morning after his wedding. He brought a notary to my door at 8 a.m. He thought I was just a simple mechanic with nothing left. He had no idea I was sitting on $9 million, and he was about to learn that greed has a very steep price. The music was loud. A cheerful tune bounced off the walls of the ballroom. It felt wrong, jarring. Cold dread pooled in my stomach, heavy and thick. I stood near the edge of the dance floor, watching my daughter, Emily. She was spinning in the arms of her new husband, Tyler. Her smile was radiant, so bright it almost hurt to look at. The candlelight caught the sequins on her dress, making her sparkle. She was everything a bride should be, glowing, happy, but my heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic bird trapped in a cage. This wasn't just normal anxiety. This wasn't a father worried about letting go. This was something much darker, a primal instinct, screaming that danger was near. It was the secret I kept locked away, tucked in a secure encrypted file on a hard drive, hidden in my safe. A secret worth exactly $9,120,000. A secret that felt like a ticking bomb waiting to detonate. My name is Robert Miller. I own Miller's Garage. It's honest work. Grease under my nails. The smell of engine oil and solvent. That's my world. I'm a simple man. I loved my wife Susan. We lost her 5 years ago to cancer. It broke me. I love Emily more than anything. She's all I have left of Susan. We were a solid, middle-class family. Until 3 weeks ago. If you're listening to this, subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. Let me back up and tell you how a simple mechanic ended up with a fortune and a target on his back. It started when my father passed away, Emily's grandfather. He was a quiet man, a retired electrician. He lived in a small bungalow and saved every penny he ever earned. He was frugal to a fault. I knew he had some savings. I expected maybe enough to cover his funeral and perhaps help with the wedding expenses. I never expected the meeting with his lawyer, Mr. Davis. The office was plush, leather chairs, and mahogany desks. It smelled like old books and strong coffee. Mr. Davis was serious, an older man with sharp eyes. He adjusted his glasses and slid a heavy portfolio across the desk. It landed with a heavy thud. "Robert," Mr. Davis said, his voice low and grave. "Your father was an incredibly astute investor. He bought into technology stocks decades ago. Apple, Microsoft, when they were worth nothing, and he never sold." He paused, letting the weight of his words settle in the quiet room. "His estate is significant. When he told me the amount, $9 million, I couldn't breathe. The air rushed out of my lungs. The room spun. I had to grip the arms of the chair to keep from falling over. It was life-changing money. Money that could ensure Emily's future. Money that could expand the shop. Money that could let me finally relax after years of worrying about every bill. But Mr. Davis gave me a warning. A warning that probably saved my life.
"Keep this quiet, Robert," he advised. His eyes bored into mine. "Don't make any sudden moves. Don't buy a new car. Don't pay off your mortgage, especially with the wedding so close. Large sums of money change dynamics.
They bring out the worst in people." He leaned in, his voice dropping to a whisper. "Wait until the dust settles before you tell anyone. Protect yourself, and protect Emily." I took his advice. I buried the secret deep. I didn't even tell my brother, Michael, who was my best friend and my sounding board for everything. And I certainly didn't tell Emily. I wanted her wedding day to be about love, not money. I wanted her to have this one perfect day. But watching Tyler, I realized keeping that secret was the smartest thing I'd ever done. Tyler was handsome, too handsome, charming, definite. He had a smile that could disarm anyone, a politician's smile, but there was a slickness to him, like oil on water. It just didn't feel right. His eyes were cold, calculating, even when he was laughing. He called himself an entrepreneur specializing in emerging markets. Fancy words that meant absolutely nothing. I never actually saw him work. He was always taking meetings or networking. He drove a leased sports car, bright red Porsche, expensive. And he always had an explanation for why his big deals were just around the corner. He was always waiting for the next big score. And I had a terrible sinking feeling that I was the score. The reception was lavish. Crystal chandeliers, filet mignon, an open bar. Way more than I could comfortably afford. I paid for it with my savings. Every dime I had put away over the years, I drained my accounts. careful not to touch the inheritance. I didn't want any trace of that money showing up yet. I had to maintain the illusion of being a simple, struggling mechanic. Then came the moment the evening truly turned sour. The moment the alarm bells started ringing louder. Tyler clinked his glass. A sharp ringing sound that cut through the chatter. The music faded. He stood tall, commanding the room. He was in his element, performing for the crowd. He locked eyes with Emily, a look of practiced adoration on his face. The room waited, silent, expectant. I felt a muscle twitch in my jaw, my hands clenched into fists. Something was coming, something bad. To my beautiful wife, Emily, he announced, his voice smooth and confident, amplified by the microphone. You have made me the luckiest man alive. Emily blushed, completely smitten. She adored him. Then he turned to me. That 1,000-watt smile flashed, blindingly white. And to Robert, thank you for your incredible generosity. Thank you for welcoming me into the family. He paused, letting the words hang in the air before delivering the blow, the words that confirmed my fears. I look forward to our future together. We have big plans, big ventures ahead of us. A real family enterprise. He raised his glass high. To the future. Everyone cheered. The room erupted in applause. I managed a weak smile. It felt plastered on my face. Family enterprise?
I hadn't heard anything about that.
My stomach twisted into a knot. He wasn't just marrying my daughter. He was marrying my assets. He was already making plans for my business. My life's work. I glanced across the room at my brother. Michael caught my eye. He raised a skeptical eyebrow, a silent communication that said, I told you so. He never trusted Tyler. Not for a second. Later, as the dancing started, Michael pulled me aside near the bar. He was swirling his scotch, the ice clinking against the glass. What was that about, family enterprise? Michael asked, his voice low, rough. I have no idea, I admitted. The dread was getting heavier, settling in my bones. I don't like him, Robert, Michael said flatly. He didn't mince words. Never did. He cracked his knuckles. A nervous habit he had when he was angry. The guy is too smooth. He talks too fast and says too little. He's a snake oil salesman. Michael took a long sip of his drink. His eyes were fixed on Tyler, who was laughing loudly across the room, and he sure seemed interested in Emily right after his last business failed spectacularly. The timing was too convenient, Rob. Too perfect. She loves him, Mike, I said, feeling defensive. I had to believe she was happy. I had to believe I hadn't failed her. Maybe, Michael grunted, unconvinced, but love can be blind. Just watch your back, Rob. And your wallet. His words echoed in my mind, deepening the doubt that already lived there. I tried to shake it off, focus on Emily's happiness. But the instinct that had kept my business afloat for 30 years was screaming at me. Something was wrong, very wrong, and I had a feeling it was about to get much worse. I drove home to my quiet, empty house late that night. The silence felt heavy, suffocating. I looked at a picture of Susan on the mantelpiece. Her smiling face, her kind eyes. I hope I'm doing the right thing, Sue, I whispered. The photograph offered no comfort. I didn't sleep well. A sense of impending doom hung over me, thick and suffocating. I tossed and turned, the sheets feeling like sandpaper. I had no idea how quickly the storm would break. The next morning, I was barely out of bed, brewing a pot of coffee. The smell usually calmed me. Not today. It was 8:11 a.m. The doorbell rang, sharp and insistent. Too early for visitors. I opened the door. Emily and Tyler were standing on the porch. Their luggage was in the trunk of Tyler's expensive car, the red Porsche gleaming in the morning sun. Morning, Dad, Emily said. Her voice was too bright, too forced. She looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes poorly concealed with makeup. You're early, I said, stepping aside to let them in. My stomach tightened. I thought the flight to Hawaii wasn't until this afternoon. It isn't, Tyler said. He walked past me, into the living room. He didn't wait to be invited. He already acted like he owned the place. He was dressed in a sharp suit, navy blue, expensive tailoring, gray silk tie, looking ready for a board meeting. Not a honeymoon. We needed to talk to you about something important first. Something urgent. My heart started to pound, a heavy rhythmic thud against my ribs. This wasn't a social visit. This was an ambush. What is it? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady, calm. Tyler smiled. That same, smooth, calculating smile I hated. The smile of a predator. It's an opportunity, actually. A fantastic one. Something to help secure Emily's future and yours. He was laying it on thick, too thick. He turned and nodded toward the driveway. I brought someone with us. I looked out the window. A plain, gray sedan was parked behind Tyler's car. I hadn't noticed it before. A woman was sitting in the passenger seat, holding a briefcase. She looked nervous. Who is that? I asked. The dread solidified into a cold certainty. I knew what was happening. That, Tyler announced proudly, like he was presenting a prize, is a notary public. Why would they need a notary the morning after their wedding? It made no sense. Unless it made perfect, terrifying sense. They were here for the family enterprise. Tyler gestured for the woman to come inside. She walked in, a middle-aged woman with a tired expression. Her name was Mrs. Peterson. She clutched her briefcase like a shield. She set it on the coffee table. She avoided eye contact with me. She looked like she wanted to be anywhere else. Robert, Miss Peterson is here to witness the signing of some documents, Tyler said. He was orchestrating the whole thing, the puppet master pulling the strings. Documents? What documents? I asked, my voice sharp. I didn't care if I sounded rude. The mask of the polite father-in-law was slipping. Tyler sat down on the sofa. He crossed his legs confidently. He opened his expensive leather briefcase. The sound of the latches clicking echoed in the quiet room. It sounded like a coffin closing. He pulled out a thick stack of papers. He didn't rush. He enjoyed the power. He enjoyed the moment. It's a comprehensive family financial strategy, Robert, he said, using those big words again. His tone was condescending, like he was explaining basic math to a child. We've been talking about your retirement. You're not getting any younger, and running that auto shop is hard work, like. He leaned forward, his voice dripping with fake concern. We want to make sure you're taken care of, that your assets are properly managed. He held out the stack. We need you to sign these. It's just a formality. The pressure was immediate, intense. They were standing over me, Tyler smiling, expectantly, Emily watching me with pleading, confused eyes. She tucked her hair behind her ear, a nervous tic she's had since she was a kid. They were boxing me in. They thought they had me cornered. I felt the walls closing in, but they underestimated me. I'm not signing anything I haven't read, Tyler, I said. My voice hardened. I took the papers from his hand. They felt heavy, poisonous. Tyler's smile faltered. Just for a second, a crack in the mask. His eyes narrowed. Robert, we don't have time for that, he said, his voice tight now. He checked his expensive watch. A Rolex. Probably fake. Our flight is in a few hours. This opportunity is time-sensitive. This is important. It's for Emily. He always used her as a shield, as leverage. It made me sick. If it's that important, you can reschedule your flight, I retorted. I will read them. I sat down in my armchair, my territory, my sanctuary. I started to read. The documents were dense, filled with legal jargon. Hereinafter. Whereas, irrevocable, words designed to confuse. To intimidate, but I wasn't intimidated. I was getting angry. As I scanned the pages, my blood ran cold. The audacity of this man. The sheer arrogance. This wasn't financial planning. This was a hostile takeover. A robbery in broad daylight. Buried deep in the stack were two key documents. I found them. The language was clear enough there. The first was a durable power of attorney, granting Tyler complete control over everything I owned. My house, my bank accounts, my personal finances, my life. The second was a business transfer agreement, handing over ownership of Miller's Garage to a holding company, a shell corporation, controlled by Tyler. He wasn't just asking for a slice of the pie. He wanted the whole bakery. I looked up. My hands were shaking. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. This wasn't just greed. It was a calculated betrayal, disguised as concern. He wasn't trying to help me. He was trying to erase me. He thought I was weak, stupid, an easy mark, power of attorney. And you want my business? I whispered, looking straight at Tyler. The mask was gone now. His eyes were cold, hard. You want me to sign over my life? The silence in the room was deafening. Tyler's expression darkened. The mask slipped completely. He realized I had caught him. The game was up. It's a precaution, Robert, he said. His voice lost its charm. It was cold steel now. Flat. Dead. We need to consolidate the family assets. To leverage them for this new venture.
What venture? I asked. A real estate deal, he said quickly. Too quickly. A sure thing, but we need the collateral from the shop to secure the financing. Lies. I could smell the lies like burning oil. I am perfectly capable of managing my own affairs, I said, my voice rising in anger.
The rage was bubbling up, and I built that shop from nothing. 30 years of sweat and blood. I am not handing it over to you. I stood up. I wasn't going to let him bully me in my own house. Emily stepped forward, her eyes filled with tears. Dad, please, don't be difficult. Her words stung. Difficult. I was being robbed. Tyler is just trying to help, she pleaded. He explained it all to me. He wants us to be secure. He had already gotten to her. Poisoned her mind against me. Turned her against her own father. Secure? By taking control of everything I own? I shouted. I couldn't hold it back anymore. Emily, do you even know what this means? I pointed to the papers. It means he can sell my house, empty my bank accounts, ruin my business, and I can't stop him. He would own me. Dad, you're being paranoid, Emily cried. She was hysterical now. Why don't you trust Tyler? He's my husband. She paused. Her next words hit me like a physical blow. Why are you trying to ruin our future? The accusation hit me hard. My own daughter, siding with this predator against me. I felt utterly alone. The rift between us was widening, tearing apart the bond we had shared for so many years. It was breaking my heart. The pain was excruciating. Get out, I said, my voice low, dangerous. Get out of my house. Now. Tyler glared at me, his face red with fury. The charming entrepreneur was gone. The monster underneath was revealed. He wasn't used to being told no. You'll regret this, Robert, he spat. You just threw away the opportunity of a lifetime. He grabbed his briefcase, nodded curtly to the stunned notary, Mrs. Peterson. She quickly gathered her things and scurried out the door. She knew this was wrong. Tyler followed her. Emily hesitated, looking at me with betrayal in her eyes. Then she ran after him. The door slammed shut. The sound echoed in the silent house, leaving me alone in the suffocating silence. I knew then that this was war, and I was so glad I hadn't said a word about the $9 million. Tyler had shown his true colors. He thought I was just a simple mechanic. Ripe for the picking, he had no idea what he was up against. He had just made the biggest mistake of his life. I immediately called Michael. My hands were still shaking, but this time it was with rage, not fear. Mike, you were right, I said, my voice trembling with rage. He just tried to take the shop. He brought a notary, right here, in my living room. Michael cursed under his breath, loud and sharp. A vicious sound. I'm on my way. When Michael arrived 20 minutes later, I was pacing the living room. The anger was burning through me. The adrenaline was pumping. I told him everything. The power of attorney, the business transfer agreement, the confrontation, Emily's betrayal, and finally I told him about the inheritance. I had to tell someone. I couldn't carry this burden alone. Michael stared at me, speechless. He sank onto the sofa, ran a hand over his face. $9 million, he whispered, his eyes wide with shock. Dad had $9 million, and left it all to you? Yes, I said, and if Tyler knew about it, he wouldn't be trying to steal the shop. He'd be trying to steal the fortune. The realization hit us both at the same time. The stakes were much higher than we thought. We need to stop him, Mike. We need to protect that money. But Emily, she believes him. She thinks I'm the enemy. Then we need proof, Michael said decisively. His protective instincts kicked in. He cracked his knuckles again, a sound that meant he was ready for a fight. We need to expose him for what he really is. We need to break the spell he has over her. Michael knew a private investigator, a retired detective named Jack O'Leary, specialized in financial fraud. Jack was gruff, efficient, and chewed on toothpicks constantly. He looked like a man who had seen the worst of humanity and was tired of it. We hired him the next day. I used some of the inheritance money to pay for it. It felt like a worthy investment, the best money I ever spent. It felt like the only way to save my daughter. Jack worked quickly. While he dug into Tyler's past, Tyler launched a full-scale pressure campaign against me. He wasn't giving up. He was escalating. He and Emily postponed their honeymoon indefinitely. They cited financial complications caused by my refusal to cooperate. He was blaming me for everything, turning me into the villain in my own story. The manipulation was relentless. Emily called me every day, her voice alternating between pleading and accusatory. It was torture, psychological warfare. "Dad, Tyler says the deal is falling apart because of you," she cried one afternoon. The sound of her pain twisted the knife in my chest. "We could lose everything. Why are you being so selfish? Don't you care about me?" My heart ached. He had isolated her, convinced her that I was the obstacle to their happiness. I tried to reason with her, but she wouldn't listen. She was completely under his spell. Brainwashed. Every conversation ended with her hanging up on me, leaving me listening to the dial tone, feeling helpless, defeated. If this story is keeping you hooked, drop a subscribe. It was that helplessness that nearly broke me. But Tyler wasn't done. He escalated the attack. He started showing up at the garage, uninvited, unwelcome. He would just walk in, like he owned the place. The bell above the door would ring, and my stomach would tighten. I knew it was him before I even saw him. He'd wander around the garage floor, inspecting the lifts, criticizing the organization, making comments about the equipment, just checking on the family assets. "Robert," he'd say, a smug smile on his face, a smirk that I wanted to wipe off with a wrench. "This place needs a serious upgrade. It's inefficient. You're wasting potential." He was trying to intimidate me, to wear me down, to make me feel small, incompetent. I bit my tongue. I gripped the wrench in my hand until my knuckles turned white. Don't react. Don't give him the satisfaction. Don't let him see how much he was getting to me. But inside, the rage was building, a pressure cooker ready to explode. It came to a head one Friday. My head mechanic, Tom Jenkins, walked into my office. Tom had been with me for 15 years, loyal, blunt, dependable. He was usually calm, but his face was flushed with anger. "Robert, I can't work like this," Tom said, wiping grease from his hands onto a rag. "That son-in-law of yours, he's harassing the guys, telling us how to do our jobs, acting like he's the boss." Tom threw the rag on my desk. It landed with a wet slap. "And he's asking questions about the accounts, the cash flow, who our biggest clients are. He's sniffing around like a hungry dog, digging for information."
Then came the ultimatum, the threat I couldn't ignore. If he stays, I go, and I won't be the only one. I was trapped. I couldn't afford to lose Tom, or my crew. The garage was my livelihood, the only thing Tyler thought I had, but I couldn't physically throw Tyler out without causing a massive scene that would only further alienate Emily. I managed to calm Tom down. I promised him I would handle Tyler. I didn't know how, but I had to do something, fast. That afternoon, I had the locks changed, on the office, the main access doors, every lock in the building. I called Tyler, told him he was no longer welcome on the premises. I cited insurance reasons, a weak excuse, but it was all I had. He laughed, a cold, arrogant sound, a sound that chilled me to the bone. "You can change the locks, Robert," he sneered, "but you can't stop what's coming." He hung up. The threat hung in the air, heavy and menacing. I knew he wasn't bluffing. A week later, Jack called us back to his office. It was a small, cluttered space.
Stacks of files everywhere. The smell of stale cigarette smoke hung in the air. Jack chewed on a fresh toothpick. The report he handed us was devastating. It was worse than I imagined. It confirmed my worst fears. Tyler wasn't just a failed entrepreneur, he was a professional con artist. A predator. He had several judgments against him for fraud. In 3 different states, he lured investors into fake real estate ventures. Mostly older people, retirees, people who trusted him, and then he disappeared with their money. He ruined their lives, without remorse. And there was more. The worst part. The real bombshell. He had been married before. Twice. Jack had tracked down his second ex-wife. Her name was Sarah. She provided a sworn statement. Her story was chilling. Heartbreaking. She said Tyler had charmed her, isolated her from her family, and then systematically drained her savings, her inheritance from her parents. He took everything, cleaned her out, and then he left her, heartbroken and bankrupt. He vanished without a trace. It was a pattern, a chillingly familiar pattern, the same playbook. He was doing the exact same thing to Emily. I felt sick to my stomach. Nauseous. This monster was married to my daughter. I had to save her, before it was too late. Armed with the evidence, I knew I had to tell Emily. I had to break the spell. I had to show her the truth. I went to the apartment she and Tyler had rented. A luxury high-rise downtown, a place I now realized they couldn't possibly afford. The rent must have been astronomical. She opened the door. She looked pale, stressed. The vibrant bride from 2 weeks ago was gone, replaced by this hollow shell, a ghost. "Dad, what do you want?" she said, her voice cold, distant. "I told you I don't want to talk." "We have to talk, honey. Please," I pleaded. I pushed past her into the apartment. I wasn't taking no for an answer. Not this time. I sat her down on the expensive velvet sofa. I gently laid out the facts. The fraud, the judgments, the ex-wives, Sarah's story. I showed her the proof, the court documents, the sworn statement. I laid it all out on the expensive glass coffee table. Undeniable proof of Tyler's betrayal. She stared at the papers, her face expressionless, blank. I waited, praying that this would be enough, that she would see the light. Then she shook her head, denial blazing in her eyes. "No," she whispered. "This isn't true. Emily, it's all documented," I said softly. My voice was desperate. I reached for her hand. She pulled away violently, like I burned her. "You're lying," she screamed. Suddenly furious, the rage erupted out of her, shocking me with its intensity. "You paid someone to make this up. You've always hated Tyler. You can't stand that I'm happy, that I don't need you anymore. You're trying to ruin my marriage." "Honey, that's not true. I'm trying to protect you." "He's dangerous. Tyler warned me you would do this," she cried, tears streaming down her face. "He told me you were controlling, that you couldn't let go." He was right. He had anticipated my every move, poisoned her completely against me. I had underestimated his power over her. "Get out," she screamed. "Get out and leave us alone." She pushed me out the door, shoved me into the hallway, and slammed the door in my face. My heart shattered into a million pieces. She chose him over the truth, over me. The realization was devastating. Tyler's emotional control over Emily was absolute. I had lost her. My daughter was gone. I went back to the shop, defeated, crushed. I had the proof, but it didn't matter. I was sitting in my office, staring at the walls, the weight of the situation crushing me. I felt old, tired, broken, and then I noticed something strange. The filing cabinet where I kept the business accounts looked slightly off, angled away from the wall, just a fraction of an inch. I frowned, walked over to it. I checked the lock. It was broken. The mechanism was damaged, subtle, but definitely forced. My blood ran cold. Someone had broken in. After I changed the locks, I checked the files, the recent bank statements, the backup ledger. Gone. Missing. Panic started to rise in my chest. I rushed to the computer, checked the business accounts online, my hands trembling as I typed the password. We had an emergency fund, about $75,000 for unexpected repairs, downturns. It wasn't much, but it was our safety net. It was empty. The account was drained. Unauthorized withdrawals. Thousands of dollars at a time. Over the past 3 days, the money had been wired to an offshore account. Untraceable. Gone. He didn't just try to take the business. He stole the cash. He had actually stolen from me. I checked the security camera footage from the office. I had installed the cameras years ago, long before Tyler, a precaution against theft. I fast-forwarded through the night since the locks were changed. I thought I was safe. I was wrong, and then I saw them. It was 2 a.m. 2 nights ago. The office door opened. Tyler slipped inside. He didn't break in. He didn't force the door. He used a key I didn't know he had. How did he get a key? I had changed the locks. And then I saw who was with him. And with him, holding the door, looking terrified but compliant, was Emily. The betrayal was so deep it took my breath away. I couldn't breathe. I felt like I was drowning. My own daughter. Tyler hadn't just broken in. He hadn't just stolen from me. He had manipulated my daughter into helping him. He had made her an accomplice. He had corrupted her. He had turned her into a criminal. A thief. I realized the depth of his desperation. He knew I was closing in on him. Jack's investigation had spooked him. He was trying to grab whatever cash he could before running. He was planning to disappear. And I realized something else. He wasn't planning to take Emily with him. He was planning to leave her, just like he left the others, to take the fall. I had a terrible choice to make, a choice no parent should ever have to face. I could call the police right now, report the theft, have Tyler arrested. The evidence was undeniable, the footage was clear. But that would mean involving Emily. It would mean she could be charged as an accomplice, accessory to grand larceny. It would destroy her life, her future, a criminal record. I couldn't do it. Not yet. I loved her too much. I needed to handle this myself. I needed to expose Tyler so completely that Emily would finally see the truth. And I needed to get my money back without sacrificing my daughter's future. I needed a plan, a trap. I called Michael and Mr. Davis, the lawyer. I told them what happened. He stole the emergency fund, I said, my voice shaking with a new kind of rage. A cold, calculating rage. Emily helped him. It's time to end this. We planned it carefully. The trap had to be perfect. Airtight. Ironclad, no escape routes. We were going to take him down. For good. I called Tyler the next day. I let the exhaustion and defeat. I felt color my voice. I pretended to be broken, beaten. Tyler, I've been thinking, I said, forcing the words out. It tasted like ash in my mouth. This fighting is destroying Emily. I can't bear to see her like this. Maybe I was too hasty. Let's discuss the partnership agreement again. There was a long pause, silence on the other end. Tyler was suspicious. I could feel it. He was cautious. But his greed, his arrogance, it outweighed his caution. He couldn't resist the bait. He thought he had won. You're finally seeing sense, Robert, he said, his voice dripping with triumph. When? Tonight. At my house. Bring Emily. We'll finalize everything. I added the bait, the final lure, the hook.
And I have something else to discuss. A larger investment opportunity. I knew the mention of more money would be irresistible. He couldn't resist the scent of cash. He thought he had broken me. He was walking straight into the lion's den. He was about to find out how wrong he was. The night before the meeting I couldn't sleep. Doubt gnawed at me. What if Emily chose Tyler anyway, even after seeing the truth? What if the proof wasn't enough? What if I lost her forever? The risks were enormous. The stakes were everything. I looked at the photo of Susan again. Her strength,
her clarity. I had to trust my daughter's true nature. The goodness Susan had instilled in her. The goodness I knew was buried deep inside her, underneath Tyler's influence. I had to believe she was still in there. I had to believe I could get her back. Mr. Davis had drafted a dummy agreement. It looked official, dense with legal jargon. But it transferred nothing. It was worthless paper. Bait. We also prepared the evidence, the security footage, the PI report, the financial statements, ready for display. ready to expose the truth. The next evening, the stage was set. Michael was hidden in the kitchen, listening, ready to step in if things got physical. I didn't trust Tyler not to become violent when cornered. Mr. Davis sat beside me in the living room, calm, professional, a silent promise of the legal storm about to break. The doorbell rang at exactly 7 o'clock, sharp and loud in the quiet house. I took a deep breath. This was it, the final confrontation. I opened the door. Tyler and Emily stood on the porch. Tyler looked triumphant, a smug smile playing on his lips. His arrogance was suffocating. He walked in like he owned the place. Emily looked nervous, hollow, the shadow of the radiant bride she had been. She avoided my eyes. She looked ashamed, guilty. "Come in," I said, my voice steady. Calm, I ushered them into the living room. The same room where this nightmare began. The trap was set. Tyler looked surprised to see Mr. Davis. A flicker of unease crossed his face, suspicion in his eyes. "A lawyer? I thought this was a family discussion, Robert. I see you still don't trust me." "Mr. Davis is here to ensure everything is done correctly this time," I said smoothly. "Please, sit down." We all sat down. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut with a knife. The air crackled with unspoken words and hidden truths. The silence before the explosion. The storm was about to break. I slid the dummy agreement across the coffee table to Tyler. "I've reviewed the terms, and I agree." I lied. The words felt dirty. "We're partners." I added the sweetener. "Furthermore, I am prepared to invest an additional $100,000 in your real estate venture as a sign of good faith." Tyler's eyes lit up. The greed was naked now, unrestrained. He barely glanced at the papers, his eagerness getting the better of him. He quickly flipped to the signature page, signed his name with a flourish, a bold, arrogant signature. He thought he had won. He then pushed the agreement toward Emily. "Your turn, honey," he said, his voice smooth as silk. "Our future awaits." Emily picked up the pen, her hand trembling. She looked at me, searching for something in my eyes. Forgiveness, understanding. Before she could sign, I stopped her. "Wait," I said, my voice clear and strong. The time for pretending was over. The time for pretending was over. The time for truth had come. Emily paused, the pen hovering over the paper. "Before we finalize this partnership, Tyler," I said, turning to him. I locked eyes with him. "We need to discuss the $75,000 you stole from my business account." The trap sprung. Tyler froze. His smile vanished. His eyes turned hard, cold. Panic flashed across his face. "I don't know what you're talking about," he said defensively. But the tremor in his voice betrayed him. He was lying. And he knew I knew. He was caught. I reached for the remote control. Turned on the large television in the corner of the room. The security footage from my office played on the screen. High definition. Crystal clear. Tyler and Emily breaking into my office. Logging into my computer. Transferring the money. The crime unfolding in front of us. The undeniable proof of their betrayal. Emily gasped. Her hands flew to her mouth. She stared at the screen, horrified. The reality of what she had done, what he had made her do, crashed down on her. "Tyler, you told me Dad gave you permission," she whispered, her voice trembling. "You said it was an advance on the partnership. You said he knew." She finally saw the lies, the manipulation. Tyler panicked. He looked around the room like a trapped animal, searching for an escape. There was none. Then his fear turned to rage. "He set us up," he yelled, pointing a shaking finger at me. "He's trying to frame me. This footage is fake. It's deep fake technology." He was grasping at straws. Desperate lies. Pathetic. "It's over, Tyler," I said calmly. I nodded at Mr. Davis. Mr. Davis pulled out the private investigator's report, laid it on the table, the final nail in the coffin. "We also know about the fraud judgments in 3 states," Mr. Davis said, his voice sharp, precise, clinical. "We know about your 2 ex-wives. We have the sworn statement from Sarah, detailing how you isolated her and stole her inheritance. We know everything." Emily picked up the report, her eyes scanning the pages, her expression shifting from confusion to horror. and finally to devastating clarity. The spell was broken. 2 ex-wives, she whispered. She looked at Tyler, her eyes filled with pain, disgust. You told me I was the only one. You lied. You lied about everything. Tyler realized he had lost. The facade crumbled completely, revealing the ugliness underneath, the monster he truly was. He had no more moves left. The game was over. He turned on Emily, his last act of cruelty. You stupid, naive girl, he spat at Emily, his voice vicious, cruel. You believe everything I tell you? We could have had everything. He turned to me, his face contorted with fury. Your father is a pathetic old fool, sitting on a crumbling garage. He deserved to be taken. He was revealing his true self, a monster of greed and arrogance. You ruined everything, he screamed. I worked hard for this. You worked hard to steal from me, I corrected him. You thought I was an easy target. A simple mechanic with a small shop and a house. I paused, letting the silence stretch. It was time to reveal the final piece of the puzzle. The knockout punch. The secret I had kept hidden. You were wrong, Tyler, I said quietly. You vastly underestimated me. I reached into the briefcase beside my chair, pulled out another folder. The inheritance paperwork. The financial statements. My father, I said, my voice ringing with clarity, left me $9 million. The room went completely still, dead silence. Tyler looked like he was about to faint. His face turned gray, his eyes bulging. He stumbled back, gripping the edge of the sofa for support. He couldn't comprehend the magnitude of his mistake. The shock was too much for him. $9 million, he whispered. His voice choked, barely audible. $9 million, I repeated. And I hid it from you, because I knew deep down what kind of man you are. I saw the greed in your eyes from the moment I met you, and I am so glad I didn't say a word. I looked at Emily. I did it to protect you, sweetheart, to protect your future from him. And the money, Mr. Davis added, his voice sharp and precise, is locked in an ironclad trust, the Emily Protection Trust. Robert is the sole trustee. He looked straight at Tyler with contempt. And there is a morality clause. Given your actions, the coercion, the manipulation, the theft, you, Tyler, are disqualified from receiving any benefit from the trust. Forever, you get nothing. Tyler stared at the documents, his ambition turning to ashes in his mouth. He had overplayed his hand. He had targeted the small assets, stolen the $75,000, and in doing so he had lost a fortune. The irony was crushing. He had destroyed himself. Just then, the sound of sirens filled the air, growing closer, flashing blue and red lights, reflecting off the windows. The cavalry had arrived. I called the police before you arrived, I said. Detective Miller is expecting you. The security footage was sent to them automatically. They are here to arrest you for grand larceny and fraud. Michael stepped out of the kitchen, blocking the back exit. There was no way out. Tyler looked around wildly. No escape. He slumped back onto the sofa. Defeated, the fight was gone from him. He just looked tired and small, a pathetic, greedy little man. A pathetic excuse for a man. The police arrived. Detective Miller and his partner. They arrested Tyler, as they led him away in handcuffs. He didn't look back. He didn't even look at Emily. He was already gone, out of our lives, forever. The silence that followed was deafening. The storm had passed, but the wreckage remained. Then Emily broke. She collapsed onto the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. The sound was heartbreaking. The sound of a dream shattering into a million pieces. The sound of a profound betrayal. I went to her, wrapped my arms around her. She clung to me, burying her face in my chest, just like she used to do when she was a little girl who had scraped her knee. I'm so sorry, Dad, she cried, her voice muffled. I'm so stupid. I helped him steal from you. I should have listened. I almost ruined everything. No, honey, you're not stupid, I said, stroking her hair. My own tears finally falling. Tears of relief, tears of sadness, tears of hope. He was a professional. He fooled everyone. But you're safe now. We're safe. We held each other for a long time. The betrayal cut deep, but in that moment, the bond between us began to heal. The rift started to close. The aftermath was messy. The annulment was quick, based on fraud. Tyler was convicted of grand larceny and fraud in the other states. He was sentenced to prison. Long time. We managed to recover most of the $75,000. The offshore transfer was flagged and reversed, but the emotional damage was far greater. Money can be replaced. Trust is harder to rebuild. Emily moved back in with me for a while. The healing process was slow, painful. She was heartbroken, ashamed, and deeply traumatized by how easily she had been manipulated, and how she had betrayed me. We went to therapy, both individually and together, with Dr. Hansen, a kind, wise woman who helped us navigate the wreckage, the complex emotions, the guilt, the anger, the grief, trying to rebuild the trust that had been broken. It was hard work, but we were doing it together. The relationship between us took time to mend. There were days when she was angry at me for hiding the truth, days when she was overwhelmed by guilt, but slowly the light returned to her eyes. We took long walks. We talked about Susan. We started to laugh again. The laughter felt good. The wounds started to heal. Months turned into a year. Emily started volunteering at a local women's shelter, helping others who had been victims of abuse and manipulation. She found a sense of purpose she had never had before. She was finding herself again, turning her pain into power. One evening, we were sitting in the living room. The same room where the confrontation had taken place. The memory of that night still lingered, but it no longer held power over us. It was just a memory, a scar, a reminder of what we had overcome. "Dad," she said quietly, "I've been thinking. I want to go back to school. I want to study psychology. I want to understand how people like Tyler operate, and I want to help others avoid what happened to me." I smiled, proud of her resilience, proud of the strong woman she was becoming. "That's wonderful, honey," I said. "Your mother would be so proud." I told her about the trust I had set up in her name, the Emily Protection Trust, the $9 million. Money that would ensure her future, her education, her independence, money that no one could ever take away from her. "I don't deserve it, Dad," she whispered, looking down. The shame still lingered. "You deserve everything, honey," I said, hugging her tight. "This money is a tool, nothing more. You decide what to build with it." Sometimes I sit alone in the quiet house, looking at the picture of Susan and my father on the mantelpiece. The weight of the $9 million is still there, but it no longer feels like a burden. It feels like a shield, a protection against the storms of life. I know I did the right thing. I protected my family's legacy. I protected my daughter. I honored the memory of my wife and my father. As I look at their smiling faces in the photograph, I know that the true inheritance wasn't the money. It was the wisdom gained from hardship, the resilience forged in fire, and the unbreakable bond of family. The money hadn't destroyed us. In the end, it had saved us. Thanks for listening. Please rate our story in the comments. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe. Your support means a lot because your time matters.